At Workday Physique, we help busy executives lose weight permanently through lifestyle modification and habit recalibration. If you work in a high performance role and you're struggling to keep up with your diet and exercise, and you're tired of losing and regaining the same weight over and over again, visit workdayphysique.com/coaching for a permanent solution. That is workdayphysique.com/coaching. This will change your life. I guarantee it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Workday Physique. I'm your host as usual, Ajitesh, and in today's episode, you will learn to think from a different perspective when it comes to designing your routines, designing your day-to-day life to align with your personal strengths. And this would make it so much easier for you to achieve your weight loss goals, stick to your diet, stick to your exercise routine, because if you're trying to follow whatever someone else is doing because it's working for them, not just in terms of the methodology you're following, in terms of the science behind the diet, the exercise program, but in terms of the kind of routines they have in place. And you're just trying to copy that because it works for someone else, but you are someone who doesn't function that way, it's going to be very difficult for you to stick to something like that. So if this sounds a little confusing right now, don't worry about it. I'll talk about it over the next couple of minutes, and you will have a fair idea of how you can implement the learnings into your own life to figure out what works best for you. Okay. So when I mean personal strengths, I'm talking about in terms of personality strength. All right. So before I get into that, just a brief story to give you a little background about why I'm talking about these things. So I went to college to Manipal Institute of Technology, and there we had these things called clubs. Clubs, not like dancing clubs, like societies you have in college for music, drama. We used to call them clubs, and so we had dramatics, music. But I was part of the society called the Psych Club, and this was a society of people who were into psychology, into understanding social dynamics, human behavior, and that is where I really got into, learning about human behavior through my college years. So starting from books that were recommended by my seniors in the society, and that is how I started. And over time, since college, I have really gotten into that, line of thinking and learning more and more about how humans think and function. And that is how my interest in learning and shaping human behavior emerged. So that is what I try to combine with my style of coaching so that I can bring about permanent behavior change in the clients that choose to work with me. Because ultimately, weight loss, sticking to a healthy lifestyle is not really about, following a diet plan, making drastic changes to to the way you're eating, but it is more about bringing about subtle behavior changes that are healthy and that work for your way of functioning, right? So you need to start thinking of things from that perspective, and I feel like that'll really help you. So now to come back to the substance of the episode, when you really think of humans, and there are billions of them on the planet, but if you look at it from a personality perspective, you could look at it from like different personality frameworks are there in the world of psychology. There is the Myers-Briggs type indicator. There is the Big Five framework. There are frameworks by people like Jordan Peterson. There are like so many different ways of classifying human beings. But I like to use frameworks which classify people into different archetypes. Okay, from my understanding, that there are a limited number of archetypes, and you can think of archetypes as like these ideal story characters with like different strengths and weaknesses. If you're a gamer or if you've been into video games, like there are different classes of characters in certain role-playing games. Like there are wizards, there are warriors, So you could classify human beings into a limited number of archetypes. Each have their way of functioning and their own strengths and weaknesses. And not every human fits perfectly into a single archetype, but we all have tendencies to prefer certain archetypes over others. And you would have like a primary way of functioning that is unique to you. So, all these different archetypes also have their own maps of reality. In order to simplify this, think of this like when you're looking at the same situation or the same thing, you and another person are not seeing the same thing from the same perspective. So you could be looking at two people conversing, and for you, it could be just a conversation, but there could be someone else reading more into it. There could be someone else who is seeing a different dynamic being played out, right? That is because you have different maps of reality that you use to navigate the world. And so your map of reality will not be the same as the person next to you. So there could be someone who has a very logical map of reality. So whenever they're looking at things, they are subconsciously already breaking down things into their very fundamental patterns, and they're able to come to solutions by building up from those fundamental core principles. So for these people, it is very easy to look at an engineering problem or to look at a scientific problem and come to a solution because without even thinking, they're breaking down things into their very logical fundamentals. So you would see that such people from their childhood itself are very interested in taking apart things, knowing which parts go where. They would always be playing with different kind of tools, toys, trying to figure out the functioning behind things, and that kind of carries over into their adult life where they become engineers or technicians, people like that. But this line of thinking is superior only in certain domains. If you apply this same kind of logical map of reality to human interactions, it is going to have a very different outcome because humans don't function in a logical manner. We act based on emotions and then we try to rationalize it afterwards with logic. So it's a very different way of functioning. But some people, on the other hand, are better at that. So they could enter a room and they would instantly be able to figure out the temperature of the room in terms of its social dynamics. And they would exactly know what is going on between two people during a certain conversation. And they know exactly the right things to say to fit into that social dynamic and get what they want out of it. So that is a different kind of skill set. So like I said, different archetypes, different skill sets, different strengths, different weaknesses. Your job is to find out what you're good at and use that as leverage to design your day-to-day routines in such a way that it becomes easy for you to stick to your diet, stick to your exercise program so that you can actually achieve the weight loss results that you're looking for. So if you're thinking right now that there are people who go to all these nutritionists, dietitians, they get this rigid diet plan and they're able to see results, but you're not able to do that. And you're like, why is this not working for me? I have this workout plan, I'm just not able to stick to it. It could just be that you're trying to get to a solution from a place which just doesn't work for your way of functioning, for your map of reality. So let me give you an example here. Personally, I don't like to work out with a gym partner or with anyone else in the gym. In fact, whenever I go to a new gym, I mean, I haven't been in a gym for a long period of time now. I work out at home. And that is actually ideal for me because there is no one else to bother me. But when I did go to a gym, when I used to go to a gym, I would always ask the people in charge over there that when is the time when there are minimum number of people in the gym or when there are no people at all. And I would find those hours and I'll go exactly then because I did not want to be around people when I'm working out. I like to be alone. I like to be zoned in. I don't want any kind of human interaction. All right. I hate it when I'm working in a situation where there are humans around me. It's too much of a distraction. I can't focus. All right. So I like being alone, left to my own devices when it comes to things I'm trying to achieve. Now, for some people, this may work really well. For other people, they may like a more community experience. They like group classes. Okay, so they like to go to Zumba or spinning classes where there's an instructor and you have this sense of community. So people who like CrossFit, for example, a lot of them go to CrossFit classes because of the sense of community, like being part of this larger family where you're not just working out, but you're also chatting, you're also having a good time. So this bonding experience keeps them hooked to the class. So they keep going back for that experience, and the workout is just integrated into that. I would never be able to function in something like that, right? So you need to figure out like where do you fit in? Are you someone who is more of like a lone wolf? You like to do your own thing, get in, get out, and focus on just the task at hand without distractions? Or are you someone who is more driven by the community aspect of things, that you like being around people, and that is what would motivate you more to join a class like that?
It is time for a short break. If you're a repeat listener, pause and take a screenshot of this episode wherever you're listening right now and share it with your friends on social media. It will take you 30 seconds, but it could change the life of another human being looking for this very information. Thank you in advance. I really appreciate it. And now back to the episode.
Likewise, there are people who like a top down approach. That is, they like having some kind of authority figure giving them exact instructions on what needs to be followed, and they're very good at executing those instructions. Like you give them step one, step two, step three, step four, this is what needs to be done, get it done, and report back to me. They'll be able to do that very flawlessly because that is what they like doing. They like having a set of tasks being given to them top down. But there are other people who don't work very well with that kind of authority, um, that kind of authoritative way of functioning. All right, if they're told too much about what needs to be done in a very rigid manner, they just will not do it because that is not how they function. They in fact like to function from a bottom up approach where you ask them open-ended questions and you let them come to a solution by themselves. So this can only happen in a one-on-one coaching environment where you're asking someone what the problem is, what are the possible solutions they can think of, what is the most optimal solution for their particular situation, and then let them take that solution and implement it to see the results that they want. So this cannot happen if you are placed under an authority figure where they're just giving you rigid instructions, but you're someone who doesn't function like that. Then similarly, there are people who are highly disciplined by nature. When I mean discipline is that they like order, they don't like chaos. But there are also people who thrive in chaos and they don't like to have the same routine every single day. So if you take someone who likes, a lot of variety in their life and you give them the same foods to eat at the same times every single day, day after day, without having any element of fun built into it, it will not be sustainable long term. Similarly, if you take someone who likes having a rigid way of functioning, a routine way of functioning from day to day, and you give them a lot of flexibility to do whatever they want, they will feel very uncomfortable. They would rather have a way of prepping their meals on a specific day, doing their grocery shopping on a specific day, eating at the same time in a certain specific manner. So they like to have that structure in place. So if you're someone like that, it would make sense for you to plan this out beforehand so that you are able to execute this in a routine manner. On the other hand, if you're someone who doesn't like, a lot of rigid, same things repeating day after day, it would make more sense for you to have an overarching framework in the form of a food diary, and you use that framework to allow for some kind of flexibility in your day-to-day meals, right? So that would mean that you have a calorie target, you have a protein target, and then you let yourself have some variety within those targets and go day to day, allowing some variety to be incorporated into your daily meals. Whereas if you were the person who likes routine, you would plan out 3 to 4 days of food in advance. You'll pre-prep them in advance and you'll store them in the freezer. Eat the same meals for lunch for 3 to 4 days at a stretch, maybe for a month at a stretch if you don't like to, have a lot of variety in your life. And you'll work accordingly. So there is no one right way of functioning. It totally depends on what aligns with your natural way of operating, I would say. So if you really want success in achieving long-term weight loss results, you have to think of your behaviors in terms of your natural drift. So what is your natural way of doing things? Where is your natural drift towards? You need to lean into that and not try to do things which are very opposing to your usual way of functioning. Okay. For example, I have clients who really love the technical aspects of exercise. They really want to know like how things are working. So it's very fun for me to explain things to them because I like to think of things in a similar manner as well. So when I break down principles into their very bare bones fundamentals, it gives me a lot of satisfaction. It helps them also feel really great about knowing why they're doing a certain thing in terms of its technicalities. Like, why am I doing this exercise? How is this benefiting me? But there are other people on the other end of the spectrum who have no interest in any of this. They don't want to know the nitty-gritties, the technicalities. They think it is just too much information. Like, I don't need that. Just tell me what needs to be done. I'll do that. I just want the results. That is also totally fine by me. Okay. Because my goal is really to get my clients to their weight loss goals in the most effective manner that aligns with their way of functioning, their lifestyle, so that they can sustain this in a permanent manner long term. And that requires approaching the problems from their perspective, because the way I function is not how most people around me function. Because, like I said, every human being is different. Although there are limited archetypes and limited maps of realities, it takes skill to figure out which archetype you're most likely to relate with and which kinds of maps do you actually use to navigate the world around you. So if there is someone who does not use a very logical map to navigate the world and they rely a lot on other abstract concepts, which is not an inferior or superior way of functioning, by the way, and all these different maps have their own strengths and weaknesses. So then enforcing a severely logical map of reality on them is not going to get the outcomes that we want from that person. So there's a time and place for everything. And for you to actually achieve success, you'd need to know the way you function. And there is no better way to do this than by starting to understand like what kind of person you are and developing that self-awareness by reading about human psychology, human behavior, and doing a lot of, I would say, introspection and self-development exercises. And over the years, you'll get better at this, I would say, because human beings are extremely complex. And without knowing yourself completely at a very fundamental level, it is very difficult to make permanent changes into your lifestyle. And it is even more difficult for a third party to do that for you, especially when they have zero understanding of human behavior, or they have zero understanding of the ways in which humans function in this world and how they see through their eyes and navigate the reality that is around us. So to sum it up, there is no one definition of reality, because when you're looking at the same thing, different people are looking at reality through different lenses. All right, and different people have different perspectives. But at a fundamental level, there are a limited number of frameworks. You need to find out what kind of framework you fit into. And this doesn't have to be complicated. I try to keep this episode as jargon-free as possible. So you just need to find out what kind of way of operating you like best. Do you like a top-down approach? Do you like a bottom-up approach? Do you like to have a very rigid structure in place, or do you like some element of flexibility in it? Are you someone who likes the community aspect of exercise? Are you a lone wolf who likes to do their own thing? So you need to figure all of these different elements out. There are so many other elements out there, but this is not possible to cover in just one episode because there are so many millions of permutation combinations. And that can only happen when you're doing a one-on-one coaching experience. But I hope that this gave you like a vague idea of what is really required to bring about permanent behavior changes. So I hope this was helpful. I hope after listening to this, you would take some time out to introspect and figure out what things you're trying to do which don't align with your natural drift, your natural way of thinking. And I hope that you'll use that to make changes that help you achieve permanent weight loss results.
That is it for this episode of Workday Physique. Thank you for listening. You can follow and subscribe to the show wherever you're listening right now so you don't miss out on future episodes. Leave a 5-star rating and review if you're a repeat listener, and share this episode with one friend who you think will find it helpful. I'll see you again very soon. Until then, stay tuned, stay safe, and stay consistent.